All right. Welcome back, hot brethren and sistren of the Hot Breathiverse. I am your host, comedian Joel Byers, and this is Hot Breath, the show where you learn comedy from the pros. And our guest today is all about our mission. Our mission here at Hot Breath is to cultivate the next generation of great self made comics. And after 300 interviews, today's guest is laying out the blueprint for us all to follow, not only in self producing our own content, but also owning our own content and creating our own success instead of waiting for someone else's approval. A career that started as a 16-year-old performing at a church talent show has boomed into, I'll say it, the Tyler Perry of the internet. And now, most recently, his announcement of a new soundstage, he's about to be the KevOnStage of the world. So, ladies and gentlemen of the Hot Breathiverse, without further ado, welcome to the show, the one and only KevOnStage, everyone. Let's show him some love here.
That was a great intro, Joe. Appreciate it.
Matt, I appreciate you for doing this, seriously. And we got a lot of people already jumping in the chat here. So this will be a Q&A as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to post them here and we'll get to as many as we can. But first things first, I've got to ask you from this because this is something we connected on and several things we connected on, I realized through researching you. But the things you credit for your success are your faith and family. And what I have found in my experience, I didn't decide to pursue comedy until my senior year of college after praying about, am I following this business degree or my calling? And then I met my wife in college who has been just my rock and support through this entire 10-year comedy journey I've been on. So if you could, I just heard you mention that briefly in an interview. I would love for you to kind of expand on how your faith and family, how you credit that for really your success.
Well, my first material was from church. I'm a black church kid through and through. I spent 99% of my life from birth to 30 in church,
Mm-hmm.
especially the first 10, 12 years of my life, 15 years in church, especially when I was really young. We used to go 5 days a week, literally.
Wow.
The only day we didn't go consistently was Monday, but or 5 or 6 days a week, pretty, religiously, no pun intended.
Uh-huh.
But so that's what I was observing. That's what I was taking in. That's what I was first mocking. My first bits were things that I saw. My first audience was after church. My mom, grandma, we would sit at home and watch Star Search and eat pie, and they'd be like, do Sister Daniel shout, or how did this person preach? And or remember when the person was stumbling over, do that, Kev. So that was my first audience. My first performance stage was church, singing in the choir or playing the drums, later the bass and the piano. Or, we used to have PYPU, which is Pentecostal Young People's, I don't know what the U stood for, University or United, I don't know. But we got to do sketches and plays. So the church was all of my whole universe, and it's my first audience. My first viral sketch was a sketch about Black church girls and Black parents. So my first performance was at a church talent show. That's literally all I knew. So that's the part of me that I still connect with to this day. A lot of my messages, I always kind of do a message at the end to keep your distance. That comes from the church, being in so many doggone services. And my last pastor in Washington, he literally could preach about anything. He preached about the Red Sox breaking the curse when they came back and beat the Yankees and then won the World Series that year. And it was legit like, oh my God, I'm so inspired. This is amazing. So, that joke where I take anything and preach on it also comes from church. So, it was everything, man.
Yeah. And how important has your wife been through all of this journey?
Listen, I'm going to tell you right now, Joe Byers, and this is no lie. My wife, if I do not have her, I am not sitting before you here.
Amen.
Right? Let me just count the ways. One, when I got fired, she kept working. So we had a house and could pay our mortgage. And I was on unemployment. And then she let me do comedy and build myself up. Two, she is the best joke. She's not a great joke tagger, right?
Mm-hmm.
But she is a great teller of this joke's not working. This is too long. This is why. There was a joke I used to kill with, and right before my first tour that I produced, I couldn't get it to work the way it used to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to her about it because she's been married to me. She's watched a lot of stand-up specials, shows. She was like, your timing used to be much faster. When you got into that joke, part of the thing that made it work was the speed and how you did this and this, boom, boom, boom. Lately, you've been slowing it down and it's not building an intensity like you used to. You should try going harder. And I was like, you're right. Joe fixed it right away. I mean, literally fixed the bit for me, and I closed with it all year. One joke was not working, and I'm like, hey, what do you think wrong with this? She was just like, it's not that funny. I was just, it's not that funny. Keep your distance comedy. I completely bombed on the Thanksgiving special. I mean, bombed. I mean, Joe, I ate it. Luckily for me, it was the one that wasn't taped live. I was going to bomb whether it was live or not. Luckily, it wasn't live. So I'm sitting in the car like, you've had those sets where you're just like, should I do this anymore?
Oh yeah,
because
for sure.
So bad. I don't know if I should do this. And she was like, no, you were super distracted. Like this whole week, you've been getting ready for the app. You've been shooting sketches. Usually, you take the time to make sure your set is good. And this time you just went up there and did it. Also, she was like, you were talking to the cameras. You weren't talking to the audience as a whole. Also, it's cold outside. So you're going to have to literally warm the audience up. They're not going to be going as hard at the very beginning because it's wintertime and we're performing outside very differently than we were performing in July where it's warm, the sun's out. Like literally the body, it's hard to laugh when you're physically cold. You know what I mean? Like you want to do this. So she was like, if you need to go back in the day when you used to sit in the living room and run your jokes by me, and my sister, her younger sister, is an even harsher critic. She doesn't think anything's funny. If you want to do that, you make sure you do that because you can't go out there like that again. So those are just two ways. She's like my doggone wartime consigliere. She's my rock. She keeps me humble. She keeps me inspired. I literally would not be here without her. No hyperbole, no exaggeration. I would be just another. And her business acumen. Woo!
Oh yeah,
Joe. So she is my secret sauce. She's the 11 herbs and spices. She's the whatever, that's what black pastors always do. She's the almond to my joy. She's the nougat in my Snickers. She's the ham hocks in my greens. I love her, so
wow.
she's an imperative part.
I love hearing that because I just self-produced my own comedy special. And
congratulations.
Thank you, Kev. Yeah, and I called it the Trophy Husband, and and what my wife and I just discovered, my father-in-law was Googling me, and the second when you go into the search bar and it pulls down like it autofills, the second search term was Joel Byers' wife. So
really,
she's getting into the zeitgeist over here, but. So I knew she's helped me tremendously, and I'd heard you say the same about your wife. So I just wanted to just share more about that and show that credit because it's beyond valuable.
Yeah, man. I'm glad you know.
Yes. Yeah, and people are asking about. Well, one asked who Joel Byers is, so I appreciate you. We have over 300 interviews with comics on this channel. So if you love comedy, we have all the 85 South crew on here. We have Jeff Foxworthy, Cedric the Entertainer. Just subscribe to us and support because
South.
I go way Bizac with the 85 South folks.
Okay, Joel. Now you didn't have to say Bizac. I really admire that, man. I was looking through who you interviewed, and one thing I really suck at is cold reach outs. Do you have any tips for how you book people? Because I don't know. I don't know how to do it.
It's really come down to just sometimes it's an Instagram DM, sometimes it's a tweet, Sometimes I email their website. Sometimes I email their management and things like that. Like, but you have a blue check, so you could probably just slide in the DM and anybody would pull up, you know?
It's good to know.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
people I've been afraid to reach out, I've seen them get booked on other podcasts and stuff. And I'm like, how they get them? But I also never asked. So I'm like, how'd you get them? Like, did you ever ask? Well, no.
Exactly.
What if they say no? I'll be embarrassed.
That is how we can create a problem before it even exists. Of like, why isn't this happening to me? And it's like, well, did you try?
No, I did it.
You know, it's we can start to look at other comics and compare why did they get that. But I think it took me like 8 years in this game to realize like you can only focus on what you can control. That's all you can
Yeah,
do.
that's all you can do, Joe
Yeah.
Byers.
So what we're doing here, I mean, I kind of just gave you a rundown of the show and like the people we've had on and our mission of like basically cultivating the next generation of great comics. Like, what advice do you have for us? I mean, we have a weekly podcast, we have a daily writing club, we have a Facebook group where we do a bunch of different events and things. I mean, we have classes and workshops and our own private membership group as well. But like from your own experience in this game, like what can we do as, in my opinion, comedy's best kept secret? What can we do to no longer be a secret here, Kev? Help us out. Give us the sauce.
I think, first of all, you're doing a lot of stuff right now. I think the biggest thing, it's kind of like weight loss. Like,
Mm,
I know what to do. You need to eat right and work out. The part that's actually the hardest is to do it consistently for a long time,
hmm
even when it doesn't look like it's working. And I think that's really the only difference between myself and a lot of other people. I'm relentlessly consistent. I'm not necessary, and I mean this, and I'm a big fan of myself. I know I'm not the best stand up comedian on earth. I know I'm not the best content creator on earth. I know I'm not the most handsome person on earth. I know I'm not the most physically fit, but I am one of the most consistent content creators on the face of the earth. I'm going to put that video up. It may not be perfect, it may not be hilarious, but it's going to be posted. As listen, I pride myself on when you come to my page, you will see an attempt at being funny pretty much every day. So for the
mm.
last 8 years, I'm considering myself more of a cartoonist, like a comic book. I mean, not comic book. The funny pages. What is that called? You know, the comic strip.
The
The
comic
comic
strip,
strip.
yeah.
Yeah, I used to read the newspaper when that was a thing, and I used to love Calvin and Hobbes. And some days Calvin and Hobbes was hilarious. Some days it was just okay. But every single day it was there. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of how I market myself. Like, you can come here for a laugh. And if I got nothing, you'll see another creator's page, but you won't see me just not putting a shot up, So, and also, this advice is pretty consistent that I give out. Do trending stuff. Like, however
Mm.
you can work trending into your business model. If that's like a comedian's going viral for this and you can get them an interview, a platform, and everybody's talking about that, then people be like, oh man, I saw XYZ on Joe Byers' podcast. And he also has all these other people on his podcast. Let me check that out. So I think those are a couple of things that really, there's no secret sauce, man. It's just freaking relentless hard work, consistency, and uh posting stuff that you don't always believe in. And I know that's not, like, that seems weird. Like, what? People, a lot of times content creators, they feel like it's got to be perfect to post it, and that's just not true. It doesn't have to be perfect to be posted. So put it up. Someone will like it most of the time.
Hmm.
So yeah.
So almost like more content is what you're saying. I've heard Dame Dash say that content is currency now. Is it just more and more like that's the game right
I
now?
don't necessarily mean more. I think because more is relative. For me, a video a day is about all I can do. And especially as I try to launch this app, or start to launch this app. Well, it's actually technically launched, but we're in the like beta pre-phase. I don't have as much time to make the daily videos as I always did, right? Because like I told you before we started, I was editing something that's going up on air, you know, and I'm shooting 4 or 5 sketches for this, and I'm doing podcasts, and I'm doing all these other things. So I don't necessarily want to just throw up a thing that's bad, but my video a day might switch from a side by side thing that I've researched on the internet to here's my promo for Keep Your Distance or music video. You know what I'm saying? So I try to operate very efficiently in my approach, so that I know, like, as we keep going, as I keep going, people, and now, you know, a year from now might be trailers for an episode of something, but it's a very funny trailer. You know what I'm saying? So,
Gotcha.
you know, like Kevin Hart and The Rock, they're kind of my benchmarks because they get booked as much for their talent as they do for their marketing and the audience that they bring to stuff. And that's a currency thing. And that's kind of what I want to do. Like, I have to be the creative engine to market my own stuff because I'm not Quibi. Joe Byers, I don't got 2 billion. You know what I'm saying? So, but what I do have, like, you see all these clapboards in your comments, that's the stage crew. Like, I just put this in my Patreon. I didn't even put this out to the world
Yeah.
because I know my Patreon, they be pulling up. If they're able and they got time, they'll pull up and watch and support. And, you know, and we'll put our clapboards in there. And that's my other secret sauce, you know, and that's a lot of, that's, you know, 9-10 years of content. Like, some of the people in my stage crew are Patreon, they've gone all the way back to when my youngest son was 2 or 3 years old and couldn't even speak clearly. Now he has his own podcast. There's some fans who remember when he was like literally, you know, that's how he used to talk. And now they're watching him sit next to me and be like, so what do you think about The Mandalorian? I like this and I like that. And that's
Wow.
my, you know, that's what I have, where what I really decided to focus on was just, you know, in the same sense of Tyler Perry, what I really admire about him, he doesn't care if critics love him or if the public at large loves him.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to make sure his audience loves him. And then if you grow in his audience, you like him, you know. And that's where I've been like, yeah, man, you don't need everybody. The Grateful Dead doesn't have everybody in their fan base, but they've got a freaking lot of deadheads, and the deadheads are serious about the Grateful Dead. And that's kind of what I want to build, and that's kind of what I've been working on.
Yeah, that is one thing I would say, the Hot Breathiverse. That's what we call our group, the Hot Breathiverse. It's the Hot Brethren and Sistren in here. And someone said I'm like a porcelain doll. So the crew is in the building. Okay, yeah.
Y'all, he is reading these comments. Why would y'all tell that man he's a person on his show?
Dude, I came up in Atlanta. Like, I've been roasted way worse than porcelain doll. All right, we won't even we won't even go to the
He
strip
over
club
here
roast I did.
came in the man's house and didn't take our shoes off. Like, hey man, this house is small. Hey, God, we over at company's house. No, I don't think that was a stage crew person, Joe. That was somebody else.
No, they're saying it looks like we're in the same house as well. That's funny. But when it comes to the, like, yeah, I know you have like an online course on your website about social media and all that, and this show is centered around like helping that next generation of great comics. Like, what kind of social media advice do you have for like the next generation out there? How, like, it seems like that's the tool, but it seems like I mean basically help us, KevOnStage. How can we use social media as a tool and not a toy?
Here's the thing I'll say, right? You may not be able to prove to people that you are a funny stand-up comedian on social media, right? But you should be able to show people that you're funny. And that's kind of like, a lot of my fans for a long time didn't even know I did stand-up. They only knew me for my videos unless they had seen me at their, you know, at their church or at a club or something like that. But they had thought I was funny for my videos. So, you know, there's a lot of kind of OGs of comedy who for a long time balked at the idea of being on social media and then got mad that social media comedians were getting booked. It's like, you know, the biggest mistake you can make is to think a comedy club cares if you're funny. They don't. They care if you sell tickets. Now, back in the day, you were funny, you got on big stuff, you sold tickets because you were seen on Comic View or Comedy Central or whatever, and they had the representation. No,
Representation?
no.
Reps?
Resume. What is the word when like I'm known for doing something good, and it's like
Reputation.
reputation. They had the rep.
Thank you,
Did you
liberal
dab,
arts.
Joe? You just dab with the arm out? That was like a knee-jerk dab. You don't even know what happened. You're just like, I don't know what happened. I dabbed. I don't know. They had the reputation like the Comedy Store. If they're booked here, you know they're funny, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now, and at that time, agents and managers, they were sitting in the audience because that's how you book people. Same thing was happening in music. Now I have the ability to, stage crew, we've got a huge audience all over the place. I've got big audience in Atlanta. If I post on Instagram, hey, I'm going to be in Atlanta, they don't care about the club's reputation.
Right.
They care about mine. So they're coming to see me because they've seen me laugh on, social media. So that could be on Twitter. You type funny tweets, you do, funny memes, they, think you're funny on podcasts, sketches. Desi Banks, he does a great job being funny in sketches. He's one of my favorite
Yeah, we've
content
had him
creators
on
out
here.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, now he's doing stand up as well. He's hilarious on social media. Country Wayne, same thing. They do a lot of sketch comedy. Tony Baker, he does a lot of content, but he's known for animal voiceovers. Like that has nothing to do with stand up comedy, animal voiceovers. But he's really funny at it, so people follow him, and then he can say, "Hey, I'm going to be in Columbus, Georgia," or "Hey, I'm doing my own Tony Baker and Friends on December 18th. Come check me out." Right, so you've got to find out what medium and what type of content best shows that you're funny, and then people follow you, and then you got to create a community, right? Because not everybody necessarily follows you and then wants to come see your show. You got to take them from a fan to fam, and then you can monetize. A lot of times people just want, to make money off of people, and it's like, okay, like that's like a door-to-door vacuum salesman. Like, hey, you want to buy this vacuum? Oh no. Okay, bye. Like that's how comics approach social media. Like, let me post my flyers. Well, you're posting a flyer, but I have no reason to go. Why would I want to go check you out? What do I want to do? What makes you? Why? Like, let's prove to me that you're funny first. So in my case, my audience, it's been 8-9 years of making funny content, most of which I never asked them for anything. I wasn't even selling merch. Like I just was like, I don't want to ask. I'm afraid. And then it was like, also I do stand up. Come check me out here. Also, I'm going on tour. Now I'm doing an app or I'm selling merch, and that's kind of the whole thing. Just you got to, prove that you're funny as much as you can in the best way you can.
So you prove you're funny, and that is like a difference between a following versus followers, is that community aspect. Like how can we as comics cultivate that community and really start to nurture that relationship beyond just asking for things?
Yeah, I think part of it is your content creation. The other part of it is like, I used to, as simple as responding in the comments. Like you'd be surprised, comics don't even respond ever. Like how? I respond to usually 2 or 3 comics on each platform. Now I can't do it as much as I used to, but I respond to 2 or 3 on Facebook, 2 or 3 on Instagram, 2 or 3 on YouTube, 2 or 3 on Twitter. And that just lets people know that I'm not just a piece of them. I'm not a cog in a machine. I'm a real person reading that. Now, the drawback of that is you read a lot of comments and they're not all positive, but I talk to my audience. I go live. We talk directly to them. Mm-hmm. And it's not always here, buy this, here, buy that, here, buy this, here, buy that. Like we establish, kind of like a relationship. And it's as simple as commenting back to them. Hey, what do you guys think of this shirt? And then listening. Like, my audience is great, right? I test, now for me, it's a lot easier because I have Patreon, and that's like the core fan base. These people are the ones I know are going to buy something if it's buyable. I'll throw, hey, what do you guys think of this shirt? They'll be like, yeah, Kev, drop it. And sometimes they'll be like, this is the worst ever. Don't sell this.
I believe they'd say that, yeah.
Dreams Never Die shirt, I should have asked them because dreams never sell either. So, but that's been built up over time.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I believe they'll be honest. They're being honest for sure.
Yeah.
Old porcelain doll, I see. Yeah. Yeah, because even that on that merch game, like you would fly across the country for $100, but then sell $1,500 in merch. The merch game's no joke.
Yeah, man, that's how I got by. I remember, that store you're talking about was in Augusta. I got $150 to get paid. And I remember when I was flying, I was like, this really doesn't make any sense. But I had, $1,500 worth of merch in my duffel bag and I sold out. So, back then, most of my shows were free. The church would bring me and cover my flight and hotel, and then the show would be free. They'd take an offering or whatever. And my currency was merchandise. So I wouldn't say that I'm a great merch salesman, but I try to give my people who support me something to buy. I'm actually working on a new thing to launch at the top of the year that kind of coincides with the app. But at the time, that was my currency, was like merch, because people were like, well, shoot, I had a great time and I didn't pay for a ticket. I got $30. Let me buy a show. They might not even wear it. I used to
Hmm.
sell DVDs at this time. And when people had a great time, they'd be like, let me buy everything you got. I'll buy 3 of these DVDs, and one shirt, so that's like 60, $70. And that's better or more than, a ticket price.
Yeah, I'm seeing and I'm thinking you saying the app and you have this soundstage and you have the studio and you have all these podcasts and like let me and I want to jump into fan questions here as well. But I want to selfishly ask this one and pick your brain a little bit more because I really do feel like we're on to something special here at Hot Breath. And in your instincts on your own experience, like we have the weekly podcast, we do these Q&As, we have the Facebook group, we have the membership group, we have this YouTube channel. Like what you started off with one and then you built out, but where do you see like how can we keep pushing the envelope forward? We kind of have this baseline and you're saying be consistent, but is your instinct saying even just try this or that and just start to kind of mix it up a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, whew, I try so many things. I mean, literally so many things.
Mhm.
Um, sometimes that's also realizing that you're not good at one. Like
Yeah.
Vine. I was like, I tried some of the worst Vines ever are on my page. I'm almost glad that platform died, just so you can't go and search how bad my Vines used to be. TikTok. I didn't perfect it, but I found that my dad jokes worked on there. So I think it's about like I'll throw it against the wall, and even Clubhouse, which is kind of an emerging app. I dip my toes in the water there, because you just never know who you're going to connect with on what platform. But I also know part of that is realizing it's hard to be, I'll use the term dominant on all platforms, right? With specific content for each. So I kind of focus the most. Patreon is my most important app by far, because that's my
Oh.
direct line to my audience.
Mhm.
But that required me to build a good YouTube page. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Now, thank the Lord, you can basically post the same video on those. But you need to take the extra time and actually post it. There's a lot of people still posting the link from their Instagram on Twitter. Nobody's watching that. And no one's clicking that link. You have to post that video on Twitter and cut it down to 2 minutes and 20 seconds or whatever. So that's part of it. Just first making the content and posting it natively. But
Mhm.
the way I kind of see it, social media is my job. It's my responsibility to be aware of all the apps, what's popping, what's dropping, whatever, and know what my strengths are. Like Periscope was a great app for me because I'm long-winded. I could talk and talk and talk. So me and my audience, when I used to be driving to work for an hour and a half, I used to talk to them 4 or 5 times a week for 45 minutes for like a year, 2 years, almost 3 years. And I only really stopped that when I started Patreon, because when I started Patreon and I quit that job because I didn't have an hour and a half in my day where I was like, I couldn't do anything. But so many of my fans were like, bro, we used to be up in there having and it was only like and this is what I need people to understand. My Periscope, I never was big on Periscope. But we used to have the 95s, what my fan base was called when we were on Periscope. 100, 200 people in there. We would have the time of our lives in there. So it wasn't about being viral or crazy. It was just about connecting with my audience every day. We never had a crazy amount of people in there. And it wasn't about that. It was about, having a good time with my fans and family. And them 200 people, they came to Patreon, they're stage crew, they're the people who are buying the tickets to keep your distance. But that's years of free content where I wasn't asking for anything. We was just hanging out, having a good time. And I still really struggle to ask for anything, even to buy stuff. But I realize if I want to continue to do this, I gotta promote, my my business ventures. So that's why I promote. But if I could find a way to monetize without promoting, I would do it.
Wow. Yeah, me too. And
But
Prime
even
Prime loses
like if you
just
watch, sorry, Joe, I didn't mean to cut you off,
no.
but I'm gonna keep
We just
going.
got a super chat, so thanks for
I know
bringing
they
the.
done gave you $2, Joe.
We out here. We made it.
You did now dabbed and raised the roof in the same interview. We have got to get you. We got to do the whoa. You gotta bring one dance that's been released in the last 3 years. At least a whoa, Joe.
You mean this right here? You mean that right there? Hilarious.
Your doggone raise the roof threw off my train of thought. I don't even know what I was going to
Oh,
say
my
anymore.
bad, man. Yeah, but what I think we're getting is the context for the amount of work
Oh,
you put
that's what I was
into
going to say.
just being authentic and to the community.
Yeah, man. Like my promo for Keep Your Distance is actually content. Whether or not you buy a ticket, and obviously it's my hope that you do.
Yeah.
If you don't buy a ticket, you're still like, well, dang, that was a great sketch. So at least if you watch the full thing, I haven't got you to buy a ticket, but I might have got you to watch the thing on YouTube. So I might have got an ad dollar out of you. And that's the thing that I had to realize. Some people are going to watch my stuff and never buy a thing. Thankfully, the YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, I'm getting monetized so I can get that money that way. Or maybe they never go to Keep Your Distance, but they're like, I like his content, so I'm going to get in on the app. So I try to do all that stuff so I get a chance to monetize in every way, shape, or form. But just know that it's not going to be everybody. That's just not how it works.
Awesome. Well, let's get into some questions here as well, because I do want to make sure that the crew and the Hop Breathiverse get some questions answered.
Okay.
Yeah, this is gold. Yeah, thanks for all these gems. People are wondering if I can floss. They want me to do the floss now. Is it? I'm already setting us back. I can't keep going. Oh, let's get Erica Switzer in here. She's an OG member of the Hop Breathiverse. She we do a live writing club on YouTube and our Facebook group where we get a new word and write a new joke in 10 minutes. So she's been super active in there.
Okay.
So she says, Kev, I followed you from the jump and love seeing the growth. Will you continue to produce more classics like Great Taste and Saul Incomplete but no Nehus?
It's hilarious. So Great Taste is a show from All Def from when I used to work there. I can't produce that specific show because that's a property of All Def. But what I will be able to do is create content that gives you that chemistry, camaraderie vibe that Great Taste had. What people really liked about that, whether they knew it or not, and a lot of people them did, it was the chemistry. It was these people are having a good time together. It's not really important what they're talking about. I just want to hear them talk. So we're developing a couple of shows like that there. And I'm definitely, now that I see that people are really feeling the music videos, I'm definitely going to get a Nehu either sketch or full music video in there because so many people love 90s R&B and Nehu is a big part. Like Angelica Mister, she's in this chat. She's a fan that's at least 7-8 years old. Like at least she's been on my fan base forever. Guyanese gal, she's been commenting on YouTube for years, Joel. So this is kind of like what one of my Patreon friends was from when I lived in Washington. She actually used to see me live when I dressed up as an old man and did this thing called Clayton Earl. She's still on my Patreon. Like seeing these people in here, like that's how you build a family. These people are like, I'm with you for a long time. So I'm sorry, I veered off on your question, but it reminded me how long some of these people have been in here.
No, that's beautiful. I love that. And even like I really started focusing on community really specifically since the pandemic and really cultivating an online community. And it's very rewarding just to see, mine is more it's comedy fans, but also like aspiring comics, and just seeing them starting their writing journey, and now 6 months later, like seeing the evolution and growth within their own comedy skill set. It's
Yeah.
very inspiring.
That's dope, man. I love, and that's what, like, kind of Booker T. Washington said that cast down your buckets where you are. It's better for you to have 300 people or 30 people in the hot breathiverse who really rock with you than a million fans and none really care. Like, there's a lot of influencers who have a lot of followers,
Yeah.
but no community. So when it comes time to promote something, people are like, nah, man, just post that video I like. I don't actually want to do anything. And they have a hard time doing this for a living because they have no core fan base.
Boom. Yeah. Cast down your buckets where you are. People like that one.
Yeah, man.
My man Kev got bars in here. And your keep your distance. Ooh, this is a good one. This is from K-Mac. Kev, who is your dream comedian to book for Keep Your Distance? Besides Joel Byers, of course.
Where are you based at, Joel?
I'm in the A.
Okay.
All
that
day.
flowed a little too. I'm gonna get you, Joe. Season 2 next year. I just want to see you on stage. I'm gonna get you sometime. On my word, I'm gonna book you.
Amen.
There's a couple of comedians, but the dream, Arnest J. I love Arnest J. He's one of my favorite comedians. He just does him in so many ways. And he goes so hard on physical comedy, which I do as well. So Arnest J, I'd love Kevin Hart just because I've been a fan of him for so long. Dave Chappelle, I'd love for him to smoke and drop knowledge. Ellen's special when I was in college, where she did Shoot at the very end, one of my favorite specials. Jamie Foxx has my favorite joke of all time. My favorite joke, I might just post it today just to honor him. His Brady Bunch joke at the end of his I Might Need Security in Oakland, no one can do that joke. You can't even steal that joke from Jamie Foxx because it's so personal to his life, and he can play the piano and sing. Love it. And Monique. I feel like Monique is a monster on stage. And I feel like, because of the Netflix thing, a lot of people were like, Monique ain't even that funny on stage. Okay, first of all, that's just not true. How you feel about her is how you feel, but ain't nobody gonna say Monique wasn't funny. Monique, like, bruh, y'all need to recognize game. Monique was an absolute monster on that stage. So I would love to see her. So those are kind of my favorite. And Jonathan Slocum, when I was a kid, he was the first church comedian that I thought was so funny. My mom had his tapes and CDs. We used to listen to him over and over. And I like that might be actually, as I think about my life, he might have been more of an inspiration than I even speak about out loud, because he was doing jokes about stuff that I was seeing. And I didn't know that you could be funny about this. And he did that in such a good way that I thought that was possible. So I think those are my people. Those are my 8.
Yeah, that was me with Sinbad. When I saw Afros and Bell Bottoms, seeing him like talk about the sidewalk squeaking, and like, I mean, his alliteration, his characters, and his act outs, I was just like, I want to do that.
Yeah, man. Sinbad, prayers up for him as he recovers
for sure.
From a stroke. He is a monster that I don't feel like is talked about enough. Like,
I agree.
He's also a comedian that, in a lot of ways, this is what I strive to be. He's clean, but you don't think, oh, Sinbad's funny because he's clean. He's just funny. You don't realize, wait, did he cuss? Or I don't know if he cussed or not. Like, that's kind of how I like my comedy to be. I don't want you to be like, oh, he was funny for a guy who doesn't cuss. Like, he's just funny.
Yes. Yeah. And if you guys have questions, put question in front of them.
A lot of comments.
Yeah, there's a lot of comments, but if you have a question, just put question in front of it so I can find it, because I had someone, I remember Doogie54 asking, and I guess this is from your Comedy Hype interview recently. How did you keep a straight face when Doug Williams kept calling you Kevon?
So Doug Williams calling me Kevon. He gonna be on Keep Your Distance this Friday. I kept a straight face because I had already offended Doug Williams by posting that Jamie Foxx thing.
Oh, so savage.
Yeah, the last thing I wanted to do was start a new thing with Doug live,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't. I was like, okay, I gotta say something. I felt like Marlo in The Wire, like my name is my name. So it was a little bit of a dicey situation to be in. So I let it go for a lot longer than I normally would
Yeah.
because of extenuating circumstances.
But it is funny. He's like, man, I love what you're doing. You're really paving a path for comics. All this self-made ownership. Kevon, you're killing it. Most of that interview, you just let it slide. And then you're like, hey, I'll book you and I'll fly you out. You like kept like putting like it was just a joke when I posted your roast. Don't worry.
I had to learn a lesson there, Joel. At that time, posting that joke, I wasn't Kevon the comedian. I was just Kevin Fredericks, the fan of comedy and roast comedy. And I wasn't really realizing how that my name carried weight in the comedy industry because I don't really think of myself like that. But I learned a lesson that day. That became much bigger. And I really didn't even mean it like that. I was just like, man, this is funny. So, but I won't be doing that as naive as I did it that time.
And I've had a few people asking, will you release the Keep Your Distance shows?
So interestingly enough, I will. I am. It's going to be on the app, but it's not going to be episode 1 is now available, right? I wanted to create something like Comic View where you get to see 7 or 8 comedians doing 3 or 4 minutes, as opposed to like you get to see this person's whole set, because I felt like it's only right. One, the live experience is the live experience. I want people who watch that live show to feel like, oh, I don't want to just wait and now I can see that exact thing on there. And also, sometimes people performing for 20 minutes, like an hour and a half show isn't going to be as enjoyable non-live as you think. So the app version will have a show that ranges between 20 and 30 minutes. That'll be the best, boom, boom, boom of these jokes. It'll still feel live in the sense of I'm not going to cut the jokes down to where it doesn't feel like a real set, but it won't be 22 minutes. It'd be the best 3 minutes, the best 5 minutes here. Some people might have, because your joke might build, you might get 7 minutes, but that's what's going to happen. And I actually just sent the notes for the first episode back right now. Wow. Literally, that's what I was working on before we did this. And as soon as that gets finalized, I'm gonna go ahead and post it.
Yeah, those shows are getting like tens of thousands of people, man. I mean, I've been doing Zoom shows with tens of people. So, like,
and honestly, Joe, I'm gonna tell you, bro, a lot of that is my stage crew audience. Like they, my stage crew watches it live. In our Discord, we have a private Discord with our Patreon. There's a group in there that they chat about the show while it's happening with their friends. So a lot of that, I'd say 78% of that is repeat customers who either get the email reminder. There's a discount for your email if you're on the email list, and there's a discount if you're in the Patreon. Discount on your Patreon is the same every time. The code switches for people in the email. So what I wanted to build was like kind of like a comedy club in the sense of like, I'm gonna go to every show and I'm gonna have a good time every time, regardless of who's on the stage. So hopefully with each new comic, they, I get new people because each time comics post, their fans come and watch as well. And it's my hope that I could, like when you come, your people from the A, they dab, they raise the roof, they say Bizak, and they do this. And they're like, oh, Joe,
little bankhead
there
bounce.
You go, bankhead bounce. And then they become a fan of the show because they see, 4 or 5 other comedians that they like, and they come back. So that's kind of what we're trying to build. And then I want to sell that show and license it and, say, hey, Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, here's new comedians, because I've been watching. Yes. And for the last 10 or 15 years, every time there's a new stand-up comedy show, 80% of the people on there are comedians who already had their TV credits. Like you get 1 or 2 new faces. Like our show, we flipped that. We said, we're going to have 1 or 2 people you've seen on TV before. 90% of the people that you see are comics who don't have those big TV credits like that. And that's where you're going to come and discover new comedians. And that's the goal. And if I don't sell it, that's fine. It'll be content on my app. And that's what I hope to build.
Yeah, that's what we're doing here, is really trying to showcase the next generation of great comics. The ones you don't know yet type.
Yeah, because you are, like, I love Cedric the Entertainer, and I'd love to have him on Keep Your Distance. But if you don't know who Cedric the Entertainer is by now, you've been living under a rock. He's been
Yeah.
famous since I was in high school. Like his set, by the way, on well, everybody on Kings of Comedy was amazing.
Yeah.
But like you've known about Seth from there. He was on the Steve Harvey show. Steve Harvey, he's on Family Feud. Like, who is T Murph? You don't have you heard of T Murph yet? T Murph's hilarious out of Chicago. People found out about him from Keep Your Distance. Then they went and watched him on Woke. Now he's on Woke on Hulu, and that's what I want people to do. Like that's how I found Sed from that movie, and then watched him throughout his career. I want you to find T Murph and Kanisha Bus and CP and Angel Tanksley. Like, oh, I found them on this, and now they're on that. But you've already known about them, and now they can say, "Hey, here's my audience that I bring to the table." So that's kind of the whole idea that for Keep Your Distance. I built this platform, but it's not just for me. It's for comedy, and that's just the comedy show. With the app, I hope to do that for unscripted content and short films and feature-length films and podcasts and all that type of stuff. That's kind of what I want to do with my platform. And this wasn't always the plan, I don't think, but it's become the plan the last 5 years. It's for more than me. And I really struggled as a Christian. Like, what are people going to think if, they see people cussing? And I'm like, it's more than just for me. It feels selfish to have this whole platform and just personally get rich and big. It feels more of a great use of this platform to help others and also get rich. I don't want you to think I don't want to get
Just
rich.
not first.
I don't want to be the only one.
Rich. Yes.
Yeah, I want all my friends in the gated community. I'm here. I'm up in the gated community. Now I want to get Angel in the gated community, and Tony and Tahir in the gated community, and T Murph in the gated community. Like, back in the day, like Kanisha, a quick aside, and I hope I'm not hijacking the interview.
You're doing great, buddy.
Kanisha Bus had, bar none, not only my favorite set from Keep Your Distance, one of my favorite sets from stand-up comedy in my life.
Wow.
Like at Keep Your Distance. And she didn't license it to us. And I'm happy. This set is like, back in the day, you remember when like Tim Allen, he got the show based off his bit?
Yeah.
And Roseanne, they got shows based off their bits. Her set was like that, right? It was like, oh, you deserve a TV show. This is, I can see, like, if I were a network exec, I would develop a TV show. So my hope is that she can take that set and tour with it, like develop it, tour with it, and get a show off it. And even if I didn't do nothing else but, remind you how funny she was, that's great. Like, I'm okay with that. Like, when she said no, and I asked her, she was like, Kev, come on now. And I was like, I had to ask, but I want my platform to be that for everyone who, as much as I can. Obviously, I can't be everything to everybody. I can't take every show. I can't approve everything. But if she gets a show and it's just even in part because of her set at Keep Your Distance, I'm in heaven. That's great to me. It doesn't have to be on my app. I don't have to own everything or license everything for me to be happy for people who get their, get a break as a result of, my help.
Yeah, people are asking about like your soundstage and like how that'll work. And this is, I guess, specifically Nana P asking how the soundstage will work. Are you branching out to a circle of friends or only open it for creators in LA? Like what? Yeah, are you opposed to opening up to other people? What's your plan with it?
That's a great question. And I'll answer it like this. It'll be in phases. So the reason we got it is because I'm sure booking locations is expensive. And the bigger the space is, you pay, sometimes $5,000 a day, right? That's an insane cost. So with our soundstage, we were just outgrowing, like my personal office was basically just for podcasts. There's not much room to shoot anything else in there. And my business partner, Brennan, his space was getting too small for the stuff that we were doing. So, we went out looking for a space so that when we shoot a movie or a unscripted series, we can have a full green screen. Because, we have to go rent a full green screen white site. That's $1,500 a day. Now we have that in here. Now we can help shoot podcasts and all that type of stuff. But to answer your question, initially it's just going to be for our stuff because, we got to, use it there first. But eventually, I don't know if it'll ever be like YouTube Space LA where you just come in and shoot there, because that requires insurance at supreme levels, requires like crew and people to man that. But at least shooting things for the app, that we believe in, it'll be used for that. Um, in the future, when I get into philanthropic areas, I'd love to get a space that is like YouTube Space, where you can just come in and shoot, and the cameras and stuff are there. That's definitely something that I want to do. I don't know if it'll be this specific place where we're actually shooting and using it there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, how I saw this question as like the comments keep popping up, but like someone was asking about like what is your 10-year plan? And like is your
Ah,
career fairly like planned out? Like do you have it kind
no,
of in stages?
I couldn't. First of all, Joe, I couldn't even have thought from this year, the beginning of this year to where we are this year.
Mhm.
Never would have thought that. Like, mind you, so I don't know if you know this. We got kicked out of our first office because of racism. We call that the racism office. Um, we got kicked out in February this year. We got
Wow.
our current podcast studio in February. March happens, a doggone global pandemic shuts all that down. I'm on tour. I got 70 dates. Me and Tahir did, I don't know, 8 cities. So I'm sitting there March 15th, 22nd, hearing from my agent, like, yeah, all your April's canceled and all your May's canceled, and June's not looking good either. So to go from that to creating Keep Your Distance, and the idea to get an app also happened during this time, and then being able to have the resources to go out and get it. I couldn't fathom these 12 months. So I wouldn't dare disrespect God to think about where 10 years could be. I could be a household name on Forbes magazine, right? But my goal, it's only broken down to I want to make great content for people to see and get opportunities for others. If that's my app, if that's Netflix saying, we love you so much, we're going to give you $100 million. And I'm going to be like, nah, man, 100 jillion. That's what I'm talking about. Like, I don't even know what that could be. So I won't disrespect God by trying to see how that looks practically. All I'll say is I hope that in 10 years, I am still holding true to making content that I want to see, making content that my audience wants to see, and giving other creators a chance and giving them opportunities. That's really all I want to do for the rest of my life.
I love that. I love how clear that vision is though, the intent behind what you're doing.
Yeah, that part is clear as day. And honestly, in some ways, I've been doing that since I was back in Washington. We were doing plays and not making a dime. We were still giving people an opportunity to act in Tacoma, who there was not many of that opportunities to act in a play in Tacoma. So I'm really just doing the same thing I've been doing. Like, even the sketches you see, look at my old YouTube, we've been doing music videos. We did a Capri Sun song 10 years ago. I just didn't have the resources I have now to actually make it look good. I've been
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
parody music forever. I just did it on Instagram with the music playing out of my computer. Now, because of my business partners and where I am in life, I can really just make it look nice. But in some ways, I'm doing what I've always been doing. You know what I'm saying?
I love it. So can we do a couple more questions here? Or
Yo, baby,
maybe one more?
let's do another 15 minutes, Joe. We having a good
We
time.
got 15 hot breathiverse. I love it. I love it. That's what I do love about some comics have been like, yeah, let's do 30. And then they get in here and they're like, yeah, let's keep going. This is awesome.
Let's
So
keep going, Joe. We're having a great time.
I appreciate you, Kev. He's doing it. We're bringing it back, dude. I tell my wife all the time, I'm bringing the dab back. I'm going to bring it full circle.
I'm with you. I've been actually saying we need to bring back.
Yeah.
Raise the Roof was a simple dance that I could do with confidence. We need those back. The Dougie, I got off the train at the Dougie. I was like, okay, this is too many things.
Yeah, the stanky leg. I didn't have the coordination.
Oh, God, my knees are bad.
Yeah, I can't. I'm too tall for that. Yeah. I'm not a ball player. I'm just a tall player. It's for all my Gucci fans out there.
I cannot get a read on you, Joe. You look like you went to a private school in Marietta and then you quote Gucci. And I'm like, okay, so who are you?
I have a whole bit in my special about the trailer to the trap, like and like homies and honkies and all this. Like it's I'm from a small town.
You're confusing me. I'm like, all right, what now? You go Gochi like that?
Oh yeah, East Atlanta Santa all day. Yeah, yeah. I know I'm just as confused as you are. Trust me. It's. I'm glad I have comedy though. That's for sure. So, this comes from actually when we talk about day one fans. Comedian Yoshi here. This podcast started 5.5 years ago. He's been on it since day one, so it's good to see him in the chat. He asks, "What do you think comics should stop doing versus what comics should be doing more of?"
I think comics should stop taking themselves so seriously and do more stuff they're unsure of if it will work or not. A lot of times comics get into the like, it's got to have the perfect this, perfect that, perfect this. It doesn't. It can be okay. I've laughed at a lot of okay videos, like, and that might be enough for me to want to see more from you. So that's the main thing. And you stop taking yourself so seriously and stop complaining so much about what works for other comics. That's one of the things in the comedy community. It's just be like, well, this person only got big because of that, and he only does this, and that, bro. But what does it matter? Like a lot of times, comics, our biggest mistake, we care too much what other comics think and not enough what audience members think. Comics don't buy tickets. They don't have even in comedy clubs, they usually get to walk in for free. It's an unspoken rule in comedy. If you're a comedian, you get to come in for free. They're not the ones that are coming to buy your show in Charlotte. So care about what the audience members who actually want to come see you live care about. And that will be better than impressing a whole bunch of comics with which a lot of times that's not even consistent across comedians. So I've focused on my audience thinking I'm funny, not random comedian X, Y, or Z.
Boom. Anything else we should be doing more of?
Posting. The internet is the new club. It's the new billboard. It's the new TV show. So why are you not marketing yourself? It's called social media. Social meaning let's connect with our friends and family. Media meaning let's promote ourselves. So I think that's the part a lot of us forget about. It is media. It is marketing. Every day you're marketing yourself. I'm currently beefing with Jonathan McReynolds, one of my friends from the gospel industry, and I'm gonna let your audience and my audience in on a little secret. Prior to this beef, me and John are just playing. We had talked about going on tour together, right? So now I'm like, oh, we got this little like fake beef going. But if we decide to go on tour in 2022, they're gonna be like, oh, I remember that fake beef they had in 2020. I'd go see that, right? So everything I do is with intention and strategy. I rarely just do anything more than once just for the fun of it.
Yeah, and that was actually a comedian Indy actually just asked, are there any future collaborations with Jonathan McReynolds? So good timing.
Actually, we shot an episode with him before our beef began on the app. So that's one of the first 4 episodes of the Real Comedians Challenge show that's going to air. So of course, I don't do anything for play, Joe. Everything has a reason behind it.
Ooh-wee. I'm working on getting better at that. I'm usually like improv mind of just running gun, but strategy, there's value to that as well.
A lot of strategy, Joe. A lot of strategy.
Oh, I love it. Oh, and a lot of people saying you do need to book me, and I get a plate at the barbecue. People are saying so.
Okay, see now, Black people, we always want to give the plate away quick. We just met Joe. Let's check his references first.
I know.
We invite people to the cookout, then we get mad. You're like, oh, this is y'all ain't going. You don't know Joe's middle name. We already invited to the cookout. Let's see. Let's check them out first.
That's how. Hey, that's what happens, man. They get me in there colonizing the barbecue. You got to.
And that's what I'm talking about. You done did a dab and made people laugh. They're like, man, bring him to the cookout. Hold on, man. Can he? Let's say hi to him across the way first. Check his tweets. I put a question in the chat, Joe, that I thought was good, and I'd love to answer if you don't mind.
Oh, please, yeah. I didn't know you could see it also.
Yeah, the question. The question says, how has the increase in popularity and media attention affected the dynamics in your marriage relationship with your sons?
Ooh, that's
right.
Good.
This has probably been the hardest part of this year, Joel, is recognizing that regardless of how I see myself, there is a way that people see me on the internet, and it would behoove me to be aware of how big my platform is and what the impact is, and react accordingly. So in my marriage, in some ways, for my wife, she low-key was like, I don't know if I want to do this because this is a lot. This is like, you got to understand, Joe, my wife didn't sign up for any of this. She just wanted to work at Boeing or something like that, work a 9 to 5, have a little house and come back. I'm the one who wanted to do all this. So what it required of me is to be more private than I naturally am. I am not really a private person. But this year I saw how social media and things that was really open about got used against me. So now I'm like, okay, let me be more careful about what I share, because not that I need to like go into my shell, but there's a lot of, and my dad had been telling me this, there's a lot of benefit to sharing only certain parts of your life, not everything in your life. And I had to learn the hard way a lot this year that I can't just say what I want. I can't just share what I want because the size of my platform, I have to be more responsible than I had planned on. With my sons, they kind of grew up on the internet and they kind of decided to take a step back, individually. And then my younger son wanted to start a podcast. So they're more aware of what that looks like. But for them, that's like, honoring their request. My older son very rarely wants to be on camera. So if you ever see him, I've asked his permission. Most of the time he says no. He's just like, it's not really my thing. My younger son, we be going ham. We have a great time shooting and making videos. So, but I've got to be particular about what I do. Like even one time, Joe, I ain't gonna hold you, I was in Hawaii and I made a video of me yelling at the beach, right? Made a funny video at the beginning of my time at the beach. And a fan in Hawaii saw that and came to where we were to try to book me for something. So I learned I can't do that anymore because for my children's safety, like luckily she's a fan and she meant well.
Yeah.
But if she was deranged, I just put my family in jeopardy, So, and when I was on the road last time, another fan snuck up behind me, like, yo, Kev, I want to do this. I'm like, yo, like he came literally out of the dark. So I'm like, okay, next time I go on tour, I don't want to go without security, because it's not that I, think I'm, all that, but it is like, that's a couple of times within 6 months, 12 months, that if someone had bad intentions, I would have been exposed. So that's a part of my career that I would, never really thought I would have to do, but now I might have to do.
Yeah, and that there are so many parallels between us. It's wild. But that's the same thing with my wife. Is like, she didn't ask for any of this, but she's happy to support me and believes in me and things like that. But it is even if I'm on the road, I'm sometimes doubtful of posting that I'm on the road just because I don't want people to know, that she's like back home, like, and I'm not there type deal.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, I didn't know you could see the chat. Are there any other questions that you and Ty Jr. asked one for me, not to brag here, but he asked my big break, which I mean, I wouldn't say I've had a big break. I've had big moments and experiences, but probably the moment in my career that solidified my comedy journey was, do you know Griff? Are you familiar with the comedian Griff, 2 Trillion?
Yep.
Yeah. So I did a church with him probably 2 or 3 years in front of 1,500 people, my biggest audience. And I killed. And from then on, it just like, that was the moment where I was like, oh, I can do this. And this is what is possible. It's not all open mics in front of 4 people, but this is the possibility with comedy. So that was probably the moment. This is your interview, but I just want Ty,
I was curious.
But that was the moment.
I was curious.
Yeah. So thanks for asking, Ty.
I see comments asking, how do I get on Keep Your Distance Comedy? Next year, we're going to open up more of a submission process. The problem with this is what I'm trying to solve for. Because the show has a certain oh God.
What is that word?
I don't know why reputation just been beating me up today. I want to make sure that the comics that are on there are representative of the level of the show that is. So I'm thinking of like, how do I create Showtime at the Apollo type of show where people who are more amateur or I'm not sure about, I can see them and see how people respond to them and then maybe promote them to keep your distance. I'm just trying to figure out what that looks like. But, you know, season 2, I want to continue to find new people, but at the same time, make sure that if you're on that stage, you keep up that like, oh man, this person deserves to be here on that stage.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. A lot of
Yeah, so
Toms. Do you know
I'm working
Tom?
on. Hey Tom is a thing we created on All Def. My boy Tahir, he stumbles over his words all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say, I used to do like when he would mess up, I'd say, "Hey Tom," Tahir mess up another word. So now they're using it against me. This is what you got to be careful about your fan base. They
That's
know
great.
so much, they'll use your own jokes against you, and it was perfect time. I was hoping they wouldn't do it, but they did it.
Oh, I've gotten roasted so many times by my audience, dude. Like, because we do the writing club every morning at 10 a.m. and some mornings I'm just not with it, or you know,
Yeah.
I didn't shower beforehand, and I just get roasted. So people love. Oh, and Big J in Dallas said comedian Griff is hilarious. Yeah,
Oh yeah, for sure, for
he was
sure.
my efficient actually, and I cried, and he booed me at my wedding.
Really?
I'm keeping it a bean right now. All the way on 100. He booed me at my own wedding.
I'm gonna look you up, Joe. I'm gonna look. Send me some of your sets after this. I want to see you on stage.
Oh, I definitely will. Yeah. Yeah. I've been in the game about 10 and a half years now. It's just like, that's why it took me 8 years to realize stop relying on other people. Like I kept being like, why isn't this club booking me? Or like whatever. It's like, why am I not on Conan? It's like, no, what can you control? You can book your own tour, do your own tours, produce your own
Yeah,
special. You know, it's just like
yeah.
focus on what you can control, which we can control 458 people watching. And if you all subscribe, we will almost get to 8,000 subs. So pull
There
up
you
and
go.
holla
I'm
at your
subscribed
boy.
right now, Joe. Hot breath of verse. I'm joining now.
My
Subscribe
man.
right now, Joe. Oh
Hot
shoot, my bad. See, I was really doing it because I did it live and I hadn't muted the channel yet.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. And that sounds like Patreon is another good social media platform people are maybe sleeping on in terms of using it as an actual way to engage with your audience and not just throw extra content on, you know?
Oh yeah, man. That's the big thing. People, a lot of times people just put like, what can I sell? What can I sell? But like for me, like especially going into the app, my Patreon is just gonna be like a private social media with my fans, and that's like, we go behind this. Like, I just did the Cisco music video, and one of the funniest bits in there, I put a do-rag on the tiger. That came from one of my Patreon people watching live and being like, Kev, you should put a do-rag on the tiger. And then my boy was like, Kev, one of your fans said this. And I was like, that's hilarious. Like, that's just one example of, bringing my fam into the process, because as I get bigger, it's going to be harder and harder for me to connect with people like that. So I'm going to make sure if I can't do anything well anymore, I will focus on Patreon, because these people have decided to take, $5, $3, $10 out of their pocket every month and support me. I'm going to make sure that they get more of me than anybody else. By the way, Joe, I just want to pause. These are the last 5 comedians on your page before me: Roy Wood Jr., Jeff Foxworthy, Angela Johnson, Gary Owen, or last 4.
Yeah.
Dude, what the heck? What are you on right now? That's an amazing group of comedians.
I'm trying to tell the people. That's why I'm asking you, Kev, what do we got to do here? Because we're doing,
God,
look at
dog.
this.
You literally have everybody on here. Ron Funches, Lunel, Louis Bell. You got big people. You got new people. You got Tommy Davidson. You got everyone on here. Nate, I don't know how to pronounce his last
Nate
name.
Bargatze. Yeah.
Bargatze, he has a really good special on Netflix. I liked him a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
You're killing it, bro.
That's why I was asking you, like, what do I got to do to get the people to know? But it may just be consistency as well, like you said.
Oh, consistency is you have the content. I can just tell by who your guest is, and you've only been on your first video is 2 years ago with Desi Banks. Your first video, Desi Banks. Right now, watch this. Desi Banks is more popular now than he was 2 years ago. Do you have an Instagram? Do you have a way to cut that and post it on YouTube? Instagram and tag Desi? Have you done all that?
I will. I used to be super consistent. I used to be more consistent, and I've honestly, like, all my focus has been in our Facebook group for a little
Okay.
while now. Just being active there, but I do need to, like, to get more awareness. It is more consistent on social for sure.
Yeah, you gotta use each, you gotta use all your powers together. Cause like Desi Banks is much bigger on Instagram than he is on YouTube.
Hmm.
So maybe you tag him in the story. If he reposted, somebody who's a huge Desi Banks fan wants to hear that interview and goes and clicks it. And then they see, oh snap, like right now they see Desi's interview, but also I see, oh, he got Ali Sadiq in here. He got Tamara Goins, who's one of the biggest agents in Black comedy. He's got Carlos Miller. I know these people. So now they're checking them out as well. And you're kind of connecting those dots from, because YouTube is kind of a closed society. It's not really as shareably social as it used to be.
Hmm.
Facebook and Instagram are much more shareably social than that. So Facebook is a good one to build that on. So
When did
you're
you
on the
start?
right track.
Yeah, when did you start outsourcing, like video editing and podcast editing and things like that? When did you start to, like, outsource those types of work?
So I would still say 80% of the videos you ever see from me are shot and edited by me, right? I outsourced my podcast to Josh, my boy Joshy Guns. When I was on the road, and I remember specifically the day I was like, man, this was before I brought him on full time. I had a show that night, and I was chopping a video down, and I was just like, I got to get ready for the show. I don't have the energy to do this. So I said, if I paid him to edit these for me, I could probably create enough videos in that time with that renewed energy to cover his cost, right?
Mm.
So a lot of times it's about scaling. Like I watch a lot of Shark Tank, and what happens is businesses get to a point where they can't grow anymore without more space, resources, or employees. So that's kind of where we are now. That's why getting this new office was scary, but we had outgrown our space. So I could probably generate enough income by creating more content in that space than trying to nickel and dime or fit into a smaller space. So it gets to the point where to make your business more efficient and do what you do well, like, yes, I can edit, but is it the best use of my time? Even if it's just, most of my podcast was just chopping the end off where I turned the camera on, chopping the end off where I turned it off, and uploading that. But even that small thing would take 3 hours to chop, export, post on Facebook, post on YouTube, cut a piece out on Instagram. Paying Josh, I just given myself 3 hours 4 or 5 times a week that I can now think of some new joke, new podcast, do another show, that type of thing. So it's like Ray Charles. I was reading his biography. He didn't buy a private plane to flex. He bought a private plane because he realized after 10 o'clock, you can't really fly anywhere.
Hmm.
You can't get a commercial flight anywhere. But if I have a private plane, when I leave Boston, I can fly and be in, the next in Chicago in 2.5 hours. I'll never forget the moment, it's my goal to have a private plane, by the way, Joe. I'm just gonna share that with
I
you.
love it.
I saw Kevin Hart at the Staples Center a couple years ago. Had a great time. Me and my wife date night. I mean, blast. It was hilarious. Saw a lady get kicked out for using her cell phone. They literally drug her out. And I was like, this is crazy. Right. And I'm way up in the nosebleeds. Me and my wife have a great time. Go home, go to bed. I wake up the next morning. Kevin Hart is on set in Boston shooting a movie. And I was like, what? That only happens because he had the money for a private jet. Now, this isn't my pitch to get a private jet, but it shows you how it was an efficiency play. He could get that tour money in LA on Friday night. Saturday morning, he gets paid to be in a movie. He's actually probably making more. He's said this a couple of times. He made more on tour than he made from his movies, made from his movies, but his star rose more because of his movies. So yes, that private flight is expensive, but he's going to make that back 10 times over.
Boom. Yeah, Jeff Foxworthy said the same thing. He had a private jet so he could fly home to be able to take his kids to school in the morning.
I would absolutely do that.
Yeah.
If it was that difference between not seeing my family and seeing my family because of that, I would invest in that because it's important to me to be there. And that's the one thing about the pandemic that's been great. I've been at home more than I've been in my life, most of us. And
Mm-hmm.
but especially me, the last 2 years touring, it allowed me to reconnect with my kids. I learned their middle names. I hadn't said that in a while. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm able to build a podcast with my son, where generally I wouldn't have. Not only because I'm traveling, because he's a competitor, he's a really good soccer player, and he has practice 2 or 3 times a week and tournaments all weekend. But now we started a podcast. We're gonna be doing that weekly, and that's the pandemic has changed so many things. That being one of them.
Oh man. Well, I mean, I feel like without the pandemic, we wouldn't have connected either. So it's
No,
like it's a beautiful
there's no
thing,
way.
making
No
making a
way we would have
positive.
met. Keep your
Yeah.
distance wouldn't have. There's no way I would have ever thought about doing keep your distance without the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
There's just like the circumstances created the content. I just capitalized off of it. But if the world is the same, I would be like, bro, I'm going on the road because that's the most money I thought I could ever make. I would never thought I could. I used to be on the road, Joel. Like, man, I love stand up, but if I could just be at home after this,
Yeah.
that would be great. And now I found a way to do that. It's not the traditional way, but it's a way that works.
So let's land this plane. You have a busy day here. Jay Fridgen saying you should get me on a case study on your masterclass. Do you do case studies on there?
I do case study. It's pronounced Phrygian. Jay Phrygian.
Phrygian. Yo, my
Yeah,
bad. I'm sorry.
I had to ask her. Uh,
Phrygian.
yeah, I would definitely look into doing a Joe Byers case study on my masterclass. I need to update that, by the way.
Ooh, okay then. Won't he do it? Let him use you.
Okay, just
So,
take it easy, Joe Byers.
my bad.
You're all over the Black community now. You're in the church. You're in the trap.
I came up in Atlanta like I was never on the cool shows, like I never got booked on like the hip popular shows. I was just going wherever I could get stage time, and most of that was just in like the hood rooms. That's really how I came up as a comic. So it's just in me.
Black people gonna make a way. Even for white people, we're gonna be like, man, Joe, cool. That's my boy. Like, Joe, nah, man, we went to high school together. He's straight.
Oh, man, I appreciate the crew for hanging out and bringing us together with the Hot Breath verse. And you, Kev, we always end these episodes with two things. The first one is just your favorite comedy advice. Something you picked up over your career. What is like your favorite comedy advice that you could bestow to the next generation of comics here?
If you tell your story, your life authentically, no one can steal that joke. And that's why I focus on doing things from my point of view. I mean, technically somebody can steal that joke, but it's going to be really hard to steal my life story. And when you bomb, get back up there. I bombed 2 weeks ago, and I hadn't bombed that hard in a minute. That was a sobering reminder. It was great. Like, I mean, not in the moment, but afterwards, it was like, oh yeah, you can still bomb. You definitely have the potential to still bomb. So, but you'll live. You live to fight another day. Even if it happened live, I'm gonna get it back. You feel me?
Mm-hmm. You ever been booed before?
What? Booed. Booed. I had a step show, and I made the grave mistake of mispronouncing one of the. I was introducing a fraternity, and I called them by a sorority's name, and I was promptly booed. And for the next 3 hours, I was hated, and I didn't do another Black step event for like 8 years. I had doggone PTSD, post-traumatic step show.
Well, I appreciate all the kind words from the crew and you, Kev. The final thing guests do, could you look into the camera, say your name, and why comics should listen to Hot Breath?
Yo, it's your boy KevOnStage, and you should listen to Hot Breath because Joel has all the keys that you didn't know you needed.
Wow. My man. Ladies and gentlemen, show some love for KevOnStage, everyone. Kevin Frederick.
Appreciate you guys, man. Thank you, Joe. I'm going to hit you up, bro. DM me. What's your Instagram?
Absolutely. The Instagram is Joel Byers Comedy. JoelByars Comedy. And Hot Breath Pod.
You don't even follow me on the gram, Joe. What you talking about?
Dude, I am so not active on there. That's what we were just talking about. Like I honestly have not been active and consistent on any social media except like the Hot Breath Facebook group lately. So
okay, well follow me back so I can book you, bro, and send me a set.
Yeah. Oh, already done deal.
All right, my brother.
I appreciate you. Thanks, crew. We'll see
All
y'all on
right,
the
stay
next
true. I'll catch up with
Q&A.
y'all. See y'all tomorrow.